receive and file the 7A, 1 and 2 correspondence letters, communications, and department report.
And I will support that.
Great, motion made by Bourgeois, supported by Helmuth. Any discussion on the motion? I just wanted to point out that the Village of Oxford Public Works activity report is very impressive. It has all the major activities of our DPW, of which 5 directly benefit the Downtown Development Authority District. So it's a great partnership, and I think the DDA is definitely getting a benefit from the Village of Oxford. So it was nice to see. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. Thank you. On to 7B.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items B, 1, 2, and 3, including the bills in the amount of $255,854.95.
Support.
Motion made by Helma, supported by Kemp. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Bordeaux,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes. Motion.
absent is Ross.
Thank you. Motion carries. It is approved. Number 8, unfinished business, old business. This is our PUD project at 32 East Burdick.
Mr. Weckel and Mrs. Weckel is here, but I think Mr. Weckel will be speaking on behalf of the project council.
Right.
Good evening, Dave Weckel, longtime Oxford resident. I'm here at the request of council to give you an update on what's happening at 32 East Burdick and the surrounding properties in that PUD project. We'll start out with the some of the recent activities since I've last was here. One of the major items that was completed since last fall was the roof was completed on the 3rd floor in the balcony. So that's up, that's dry. We're waiting for our copings. It's all metal work and it's in this week, so we'll be getting that installed shortly. Probably the biggest difference you may have seen in the last couple of weeks is the glass was installed on the 2nd floor. We actually ordered it back in September, received it in October, and finally got it installed in November, end of October. Everything seems to be taking a lot longer. We are having some issues with the supplies, but the main issue is labor. It just doesn't seem to be labor available when we have the supplies available, so it's a wait time in between. Our intentions are to order the rest of the glass for the building before the end of December. I'm going to say December 15th. And the reason we haven't ordered it right now is we have one more frame to build, and we actually don't build them. We have a glass company that does that. So they have one more to build, and then we could measure all the openings that need glass and order it. And we'll go ahead and install the small panes of glass on the 1st floor, but leave the big ones open for concrete chutes when we pour our floors eventually in the 1st floor. The stair stringers are installed in the stairwell. We do keep a door locked so no one can go up and down the stairs without us knowing about it, but those are done. The underground electrical service piping was installed and inspected, I think, just last week for the services for all the suites. And like I said before, the metal coping's ready for pickup. I've got fascia and soffit metal, it's been fabricated, ready for pickup. The metal siding for the condo is ready to ship. That's more than I can just pick up. So he just telling me, he asked me, give him a date and he'll ship it. He's got it already made, ready to go. And the tower siding has been selected and will place order to fabricate. And the only thing that I haven't talked with Kelly yet, but the colors that we selected was champagne for the tower on the north side and the south side. Yes.
We explained to them what the tower,
Oh, the towers?
for the tower.
Well, the easiest way to explain it would be on the north side, on Burdick Street's side, you can see some white house wrap. It's, so vapor barrier. It's white. Well, that's where I'm calling that a tower. So it's a vertical structure that goes up the full 3 stories. It's the same on the south side, except it doesn't have the white on it. The
I thought Kelly wanted pink, was that?
well, we
guys were really fussy.
we actually we did have a fluorescent color we were going to leave for her to look at, but I decided not to do that. I didn't think it'd go over too well. But anyway, champagne. I didn't bring them with me tonight. Did drop off some at the office, and it goes well with our brick. It complements the brick, and it complements the frames of the windows and the siding on the 3rd floor condo. I met with the fire suppression contractors, Superior Jim Marzak, I believe his last name is, just yesterday. And he's going to give us a proposal to do the fire suppression. And he'll be able to do it during the winter because he's not going to fill it with water. We'll just dry pipe it, pressure test it, and then it'll be done. We don't have layouts, so we can't do all the heads yet. Because, for example, on the 1st floor, I know there'll be some ceiling fans. You don't want to have a sprinkler head above a ceiling fan, because they're probably going to be 8 or 10 foot diameter fans, and you want them to the outsides of that, because it would not work as well with a fan right there. And lighting is again another requirement. So what he does is he does the riser, and he'll do the main headers that distribute the water. He'll stub it into the openings, and then they'll be capped at that point until we have a layout. This is the cool thing. Finally, we've all been anxiously awaiting to pour concrete in our 1st floor. You know, it's been a while. We haven't been able to because we can't do the underground plumbing until we get an approved plan. Well, I believe everybody knows that Amanda is doing a salon in the 1st floor, and we're on a 3rd architect. And this one actually got her an approved drawing within 4 or 5 days, and she approved it. And now they're doing the mechanical. So once the mechanical is done, we'll submit it to the building department for permits. And assuming that it's not 0 out, we'll be pouring our concrete. We have to get the plumber in there first.
Gotta be 0. Just saying.
Don't need it, Mo. Thanks.
Just saying.
I know. Yeah, it seems like every time we turn around, we have some little obstacle being tested. I expect that I'll have a drawing soon, and as soon as I get them, I'll bring them right into the village for approval or for review first. Yes, sir.
Dave, let me just clarify something. The 1st floor, the unit was turned into commercial condos. The 1st floor is a condo unit A or 1. 2nd floor is 2, and 3rd floor is 3, correct?
Well, actually, it's the other way around.
Okay,
I
well,
would've-
all right. So
I
there's
would've
3
thought
individual
the same.
condo units.
Yeah, the number 1 is the top floor. That's the engineer, when he did the condo documents to record the county, he started at the top and went down, which is opposite what I would have thought too.
Well, my point is, the person you spoke about regarding the 1st floor is the owner of the 1st floor?
Yes,
And it's their build-out that is, you're waiting for, their exact
Correct.
build-out for you to lay the underground piping. So
Yes.
it's not your build-out.
Oh, no, it's not my
theirs. And they are
build-out.
the owner of,
Yes.
it's been a sole, okay,
Yes.
so, right.
so that now we get to the parking lot. You all know we've got the house tore down, and we still have the garage. We used the garage to store glass in because it came a month earlier than we could get it installed. And I was gonna use it again, but I've talked with Joe about it. We're gonna try to put it inside the building, where there's no plumbing. But since I don't have the layout yet for sure, and it's a salon, I'm pretty sure there's plumbing about everywhere. I'll know more when I have the drawing. But, because I don't wanna leave the glass out where potentially, could get broke, you know, very easily. There's racks there by the block on the site now. You could see those were the racks that the glass came delivered on, and that's what we'll be getting again. They're just wide open. They strap them in and deliver them and leave it to us to handle it from there. But we will put it inside where we can, and we will install the small ones right away. It'll take probably 3 days of installation, but it doesn't have to be perfect weather anymore, you know, for that. And we've got the frames, most of the frames are already in. The hole's been backfilled, and within 24 inches of final grade, I have to get my transit out and check what the drawings call for, and I want to bring it to that grade. So when we finish the site of the parking lot, there's not excess waste. You know, in other words, if I fill it up to the top, they have to scrape it back out anyway. So this way, maybe things will go a little bit smoother and faster. I'm trying to get this thing wrapped up as best I can. We are using the garage for some material storage, but most of that material will be used up when we build the south tower. It's just a veneer wall that goes up the 3 stories, and it's a little bump out. And that's pretty much where we are on the project. You know, right now we're doing what we can here and there. Elevator is like a forever deal. I didn't know it was that bad, but I have met with you know, the one person that handles the whole state of Michigan now. He's been on site, looked at it, and said, "Yep, looks good. We'll get back with you and tell you when we start delivering materials." And he liked the idea we had a garage door still there to access the inside because he'll have long pipes to bring in. And I said, well, once we get the floor poured, that door won't be there anymore. And that was to bring in equipment to do the floor, you know, do the plumbing. So he said, oh, we'll be ahead of that. Well, we don't know anymore. You know, I set a schedule and I can't follow it. I can't keep it, I guess, is the way to say it. You know, it's not like we ignore the project. You know, we're there all the time doing things. Even though they might be small, we are doing whatever we can. Oh, the rail's coming in too this week on the balcony. Forgot about that.
3rd floor rail?
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll look good. So we're trying to keep it from being an eyesore. I still have a hard time with that word. It just doesn't look like an eyesore to me. It says building under construction. You know, there's, you know, I thought, well, maybe I should go around town and take pictures of what I think are eyesores. But no, I said, no, I'm not like that. I'm going to be a bigger person.
Thank you.
It's a building under construction. It's just taking a lot longer than we all expected.
It sounds like the expectation of the only things the weather will really affect with it would be the concrete.
Concrete, yeah.
And everything else can continue.
Yeah, we're going to continue on everything we can. Everybody know Jim Reese probably. He was on our school board, was the president for a while. He does our metal work. He's very good at it. He's got 2 jobs ahead of us now. And once those are done, he could do ours because it's not a sloped roof. The other jobs are sloped. He wants to get it done before there's an additional risk factor of ice and snow on the roof. So I said, get those out of the way and then come on over and just do this. Stay here until it's done. So once you see the metal on the towers particularly, it's going to look a whole lot different.
Dave, we had a complaint at the last council meeting. I don't know if Joe talked to you about rats, and the neighbors seem to think it's coming from
About what?
rats.
Rats?
You know, welcome to Oxford. We have sewers. We have rats.
Oh,
They're everywhere.
yeah.
The neighbors seem to think it's partially because of your construction and the buildings you torn down, and I don't know, maybe the garage. Have you noticed a problem at your site?
No, I did notice a rabbit a rabbit carcass in the garage today. It has the two front paws and ears, and then just a backbone. And so I'm assuming that the cat has taken over that garage.
Good kitty.
Yeah, and caught the rabbit, I guess, but I have not seen any rats. I don't know what they would be getting for food.
I don't know if they're using your property to hide in the garage, or if they were your property and now they moved on to neighbors because you tore yours down.
Oh, well, I suppose that's possible, but I haven't seen any. Last rat I saw in Oxford was on Davison Street, actually right out in the street, by Dunlap's there.
They move around town every couple of years. They're here, then they're
Yeah,
here.
well, they kind of go where they're not bothered.
I think we talked about sending a letter to the residents, again reminding them, bring your trash in, don't keep wood piles, things like that. So
Yeah,
they
no,
don't-
I do pick up litter, and, I told Bob and Joe and Kelly about something that was very surprising to me. We had, the last dumpster was on there, on site for concrete, had a carryout container on the rail, and I went over to get it and throw it in the garbage. And it was a whole order of wings from the tap.
Nice.
Well, what a waste. And anyway, that's the most food I've found on site, but I picked that up and I threw it away. Actually, it was gone in the garbage. That might have been even the next day. But I keep a garbage can there now, so hopefully people, when they leave, wherever they're coming from, because we have a lot of people use our portage on, thought about putting a lock on it, but I haven't done that. And they'll throw beer cans and whatever on the ground, and so I pick it up, put it in the garbage can.
And then they were also wondering about a fence on the east side of the property.
On the east side.
We talked about that, like the garage up to the road.
Okay, I'm orienting myself, okay, yeah. Now, right now, what's been improved, I looked this up in the landscape plan. We have 6-foot arborvitaes that are staggered to create a solid fence rather than a fence. And that's what's approved on the PUD landscaping. Now, the existing fence on the east side of the parking lot by the Feistema house, that's supposed to stay there, but we still add arborvitaes.
I have a couple of questions. So you said there is an owner for the first floor,
Yes.
so I assume there's not owners for the second and third floor at this point?
No, they have not closed yet. I did actually bring the purchase agreement with me. They wanted another 60 days for their due diligence. I haven't decided if I want to give it to them yet. I'd rather have a new purchase agreement. This purchase agreement's been going on for a long time, and I think it's getting kind of muddied up, so I'd rather have a new one to start clean. So I haven't heard back yet what the response is gonna be. So no, it's not. Now, if you ask Joan, she'll say, oh, it's not for sale anymore because we're moving there.
Is there earnest money in your account with that purchase agreement?
No, in the Realtor's account there was.
Is there?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there was earnest money for that. Originally, when we did that building, we were gonna move to the third floor. And then where things were taking so long, we figured, I don't know if this is ever gonna happen. So we decided not to. But now that there's stairs there and Joan could get upstairs, she says, I think we deserve this. It is beautiful up there.
I agree with Joan. She
You know,
deserves it.
I've got pictures of the sunrise, and obviously in the morning, and from up there, it's totally different from what you can see on the ground level. It's a huge difference because you can see over all the trees, right to Oxford Lakes, and it's nice. Sunset's not bad either, but the sunrise is really,
Is that at night?
most of the time, that's at night.
Does obtaining, I guess, purchase agreement or selling those other floors have any impact on completing the outside of the building, the rest of the premises in the parking lot?
My purchase agreement in that particular case is a shell only. It's not even a vanilla box. They negotiated it to a shell, so I had to have the exterior done and the windows put in. And, they took out all the allowances for heating, cooling, and for the plumbing and for the electrical service. I have a preliminary drawing, but I haven't talked with that architect now, I think since September, for any revisions. And maybe it's because it's not gonna change any, but, there is a floor plan, but it's just not finalized because we haven't closed.
Right. So the outside, the exterior though, and the different parts of the project I guess I'm asking, like, is the funding for those two other sales potentially of the floors, is that dependent on, like?
And initially it
Must
was
depend
not,
on
but they
those.
wanted to make that a condition in one of their follow-ups.
And then my other question is about the parking lot, and I mentioned the backfilling the hole. It's a little bit, it is, I've seen it, but you mentioned it'll be brought to grade. Can you just get into that a little bit further? It'll be brought to grade
well,
when, and?
Yeah, right now, I call them the grade, the existing grass. And it's about probably 8 to 10 inches higher than the driveway next to it on the east side. That has to be cut down, and then that's when the landscaping could be done. So I know that's gonna come out. I also know that we need 12 inches for 21 AA stone and 4 inches for asphalt. So those two numbers are a little about, approximately 2 feet. So about 2 feet from the grass down is where the 21 AA goes. If you follow that, I almost can't follow that, but it's lower. You could see that parking lot. It was all cut down low for drainage, and each catch basin has its own pitch. It comes from different directions. So all that is engineered, and once that garage is gone, we can finish that up. And then I have to have Houston Kennedy, he's been doing our survey work for us. I try to use everybody local. And he'll come out and stake it, and then the bulldozers take over, and they'll push the dirt all the way and pile it up and haul out what's necessary and fill in what's necessary and compact everything and get it ready for paving. The curb and gutter and the sidewalks are all done before the paving. So all that concrete work. We have something a little bit different on our sidewalks that might be a good thing to do throughout the community as the commercial sidewalks are redone. It's called an integral curb. So we have a curb as part of the sidewalk. So you know how they separate a lot of times, right at the back of the curb? You don't get that anymore. It comes like this and curves down, then the parking lot starts. So that parking lot will have a sidewalk. I think it's on 3 sides. That's 5 foot wide, standard sidewalk, and with a curb on it down for where the paving is.
Thank you. And when will the parking lot be done? What's your estimate on that?
Oh, boy. I could tell you that right now we're talking with the contractor, seeing about getting them out there. I know they're gonna ask, when's the garage coming down? But, it's a chicken and egg. The garage has to be down for them to bring in their equipment. So if the garage is down, let's say, in 2 weeks, then they would be in after that. That's what we're negotiating with them right now. I have to make sure, I have not called Mr. Kennedy yet, but I have to call him to make sure he has the schedule to come out and stake it, because it has to be staked.
Was this this like months or can't be done till next summer?
No, it can
or-
be done, there's, actually, I was down in Lake Orion at Blanche Sims School, and they were paving 2 days ago. So they'll typically pave when we think it's still winter out, as long as it's not real cold.
Thank you.
They don't close the asphalt.
If I heard you correct, you were saying you're like, if you were able to do it, the way you would prefer is as soon as the exterior's done, you would have the need for the garage, and that would be like, if at all possible, that's
I
like.
may not have a need for the garage at all.
Okay, so that might be, you might be just storing
Right.
inside the building, and so that
Yes.
might be able to be done pretty quickly.
Yeah, we had, last time we had 2 of the bunks of glass inside the building and 1 in the garage, because it was too big to put it in a building. So we put it over there. So I'm hoping that we can just put them all in the building on the one side, and have if the plumbing's everywhere in that one, away from that one area, away from the east side of the building, because I could stack them from here to the door, it'll say, deep. With our SkyTrack, we just put them on the boom and slide them in there. That's our plan. We'll see how well our plan goes.
Councilperson Cap?
I'm sympathetic with supply chain issues and labor issues, but you came before us last year when the PUD expired and promised us last year that the building was going to be fully enclosed before winter. And we were talking about windows then. I would like to know why the arborvitaes haven't been planted or a fence hasn't been planted to help the neighbors, meet them
Well, first of all, the
halfway.
arborvitae's go in on landscaping, and that's one of the last things on a project.
And
Now,
I understand that, but it has been, the project has been ongoing for a while, and I would understand why the neighbors next door would want that barrier. I mean, it has been, you broke ground a while ago. I
yes,
can
we broke
understand why-
ground in 2019. 2020, we had COVID for 2 years. 2021, we had a disaster at Oxford. That affected our project so much, it's unbelievable. Unfortunately, we had those circumstances. It's not a very good excuse, but they happened. It is an excuse. Now, if arborvitaes are gonna make a difference, I guess arborvitaes could go in. It's a waste though, and I don't see the purpose of it. A fence could go up, but what's that really gonna do?
What's the neighbor, is it gonna do what the neighbor wants to do? Stops the visual, stops with the trash, and I don't know that there's a ton of trash going in these people's yards. Everything, the entire world is overblown.
Yeah, well,
But some of it's realistic.
some of it is realistic.
And if a temporary fence might help them, that'd be great if it, and I'm not saying throw in a wrought iron fence, something cheap, just to stop us with a visual, if that's possible at all.
So instead of arborvitaes, you'd want to see a fence.
Just during construction until the arborvitae's can go in. So something temporary, not a snow fence, but something temporary.
No, it's not tall enough.
There you go.
I mean,
Just something to maybe help them out. And I don't know if it's not expensive, but that's up to you.
well, it all depends. I don't know what you want to call expensive, but I'll think about it. If you think that's something that you want to make a condition, I guess you have that opportunity and right to present that to me. I made a commitment to do that project. I didn't intend to build it by spec. Believe me, this was not something I wanted to invest our money in. It's not like we're 30 years old anymore. We could have not done this at all, and you wouldn't even have the potential new 3-story building, the new parking lot, and we could be in Florida, all the time. But we can't do that now because of they made that decision. And we're gonna finish it because that's the right thing to do. Now, I will put up a fence and it will be a privacy fence and I won't put up the arborvitae's.
You know,
Talk to Joe Madore. Make
Okay,
a reasonable-
Okay, I'll talk with Joe about it.
we
And
can come
this-
up with like a goodwill.
Try to make these people happy.
See what,
And it's gotta be before 2019. I just been going out since like 2001. It's been gone now
No,
forever.
we actually we did drawings in 2015. We broke ground in 2019. Kelsey was there.
Wait, this is-
Yeah, I was at the groundbreaking.
Yeah,
June of 19, I think it was. Joe Frost was
I
president.
think June or July, 2019. Took 4 years to get there. I remember your phone call, Mo, as a matter of fact. You asked me where I was, because you had just come for a meeting, and someone had forgotten to post the public
That would
notice.
never happen.
Yeah, I won't even tell you all
Sure,
the,
it's my fault.
I won't tell you the whole conversation here on tape, but
I'm sure we
it
had a
went
beer
from
afterwards.
2015 and 2019 before we broke ground.
I wanna make the residents happy, because it's gonna be,
We're a resident.
I agree.
We pay taxes on a lot of properties.
Okay, David?
I know, I'm gonna
and
talk with
why
Mr.
do you pay
Madore.
those taxes? You can keep those
Because-
properties to make a profit. So let's not go there, or I'll bring up my Chuck Schneider argument. But if you're gonna have upset neighbors, I just wanna make everybody happy without costing you $1 million or screwing up the site plan.
Yep,
This is gonna be a couple more years before anything's finished.
I hope not.
So, you think the whole project's gonna be done in a year?
Yeah. I thought it would've been done in a year last year.
Okay, so we're gonna have a grand opening of the whole
But I'm not
property.
having a grand, you could have a grand opening, I'm not having one.
he's gonna be off at the bar.
He's gonna be in Florida with Joan.
So, folks, do we want to order a fence or do we want the?
I would like, Joe and Mr. Wackel to, Joe to speak to the neighbors and talk to them about what these things, I mean, like, let's see what a temporary fence within reason would even look like and say, hey, neighbor, is this what you want, or would you prefer to wait? We're looking at around this timeline for these plants to come in, they'll be real nice looking, or do you want this instead, or do you want this sort of temporary
It
thing?
could possibly be like
Yeah.
10 sections of 6-foot stockade fence. You know, I'm sure they're double
But
now
we
what they were a
can't
year
go-
ago.
we Can't go within 25 feet of the road.
Right.
And we shouldn't go down the hill because that grade has to change.
Yeah, I wouldn't
And
even
there's
go,
a dumpster pad that goes in there that's within 4 feet of the property line.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that those guys running the bulldozers don't want that fence in their way.
yeah, it could be close to the line, to the east line, and it could, maybe it's 6 sections. I don't know. From the part where the gentleman's driveway house, where he walks out, some kind of a visual blockade. Yeah, you don't need it way out by the
Thing is,
road.
like, if you, I'd like you to talk to them just to be like, this is what we're looking at, do you even want this? Cause if they go, that's worse than what I've got right now, I'd rather not have
Sure.
it, then why even, I mean, the point of this is goodwill.
Right.
And, we don't wanna do something that ends up being like, no,
I agree.
that's not what
I agree.
want. You know?
We could come up with what we think is a solution and discuss it with the neighbor.
Yeah, let's not
And if
force
we all get on the same
solutions.
page and it's relatively inexpensive, it's temporary, doesn't change the site plan, doesn't mean the fence stays and arborvitae's don't at the end. The arborvitae's will still come at the end per site plan. But this 4 or 5, 6 sections of stockade fence could be there for 6 months. I don't know.
Well, if I could put it, his property, I believe is about 24 inches beyond the driveway towards our property. So if it could be put on his property, then I wouldn't be as concerned about it
You could
because
possibly leave it there permanently then.
he could have it.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's part of our conversation between the three of us then.
Yeah. Let's just make sure whatever's happening is actually a goodwill gesture and not something that upsets people more.
Yeah. Donate pour gasoline on the fire.
Exactly, and let's not make up their mind for them, let's find out, and let's not
I-
tell
I'd
you
be
to
glad-
put money into something and.
No,
then
I'd be
find
glad
out
to meet
that
with
that
Mr.
was
Mosier.
worse. So,
We'll try to facilitate that. I've spoken to him once or twice over the last couple of years, had some emails with him over the last couple of years. I don't know if he's ever been into the office to talk to me, but I'm sure it's something we could handle. We could meet right here and lay it out.
Where do we stand with the PUD?
Well, they have a lifetime, right? And then they expire according to Michigan, is it Michigan law or is it?
PUD has expired.
Yeah.
So where do we, what's the legal status then?
Well, last time we visited this, we talked about doing a simple amendment to amend the current PUD. I had suggested just amend it and extend the dates, but we never did that because we got involved with trying to potentially fix the PUD instead of just amending what we have. I still have continued to recommend that the PUD be amended by agreement, as is.
What are the discussions with the DDA? So the village isn't the only.
Kelly's
party
been
here.
involved in a lot of, oh, who's that guy?
So we did, I think, our due diligence and amended it correctly. It was never signed.
Right. We
Because
did the
could not
document.
get the commitment to sign the document. On the
About a year
dates.
ago, I think is what
And
we
this
were
was
at.
a full year ago.
No.
For the DDA, the concern really is the parking lot. We were told that it would be done this May, completely paved and finished, which means the arborvitae's could have then gone in, which means we would be having the neighbor issues. And weeks ago, we were on the phone, and those phone calls to the surveying and things you said would be done, and we would have an email directing us. And again, we're in the same position. The DDA is frustrated. I can tell you that we will be discussing it on Monday at our meeting. And I'm done hearing from people in the community about it. I'm done driving by it at the state it's in. It's very frustrating.
Thank you.
Can I interject back here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Robert's rules of order. You're an expert on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
A
Charles.
couple things too, by the way, being on the DDA board. David, remember one day I was out there and you and I had a conversation, had to be in the area, and Dave was back there talking. Remember that day about, what, 2 weeks ago, was it?
Yes,
And remember a gentleman stopped by a pickup truck?
yes.
You want to recall that for the board here, what he was asking about?
You wanted to know what the building was gonna be.
He wanted to know when it was going to be done. That was the gist of his conversation. Unfortunately, he quickly drove off. Remember, I know you were kind of upset that he just took off without
Well,
having a date.
The rest of the story is he stopped right in the middle of the road, blocking traffic. No consideration for any of our other constituents in Oxford. And walked up to us, interrupted our conversation, and said, "What's this building gonna be?" I said, "Why don't you pull over there in the parking lot, and I'll tell you when I'm done talking with this gentleman."
Yeah, that was the gist of the conversation. The gentleman stopped because, like a lot of people, it's like, when's it gonna be done? And David, bless his heart, was trying to answer the gentleman's question about when's this thing gonna be. And you said, a lot of people, and I mentioned this to you, said, this building's an eyesore, and I know you didn't like that. I would say this, not to be a grammarian, I don't think they're asking about it being an eyesore as far as the appearance of the building. What they're asking is, when's the darn thing gonna be done? That's the issue, and I use the word eyesore. They're not talking about the appearance, they're talking about,
The unfinished condition.
yeah, for years. I hear, I live here, David lives here, we all, that's the issue here. It's not a fence, if I may say. When you start talking about a fence, it's like saying your car doesn't run, it's sitting there in the driveway, well, let's wash it. That's like the car running, just washing the car, any more than putting up a fence in a finishing project. That's changing the subject, quite frankly.
I think
The issue is finishing the darn building, right? And I know David's gone through a lot of stuff, some of the, I think, reasons we hear, I guess, understand things, and getting contractors is a pain in the neck. We've all had that experience. I know my house, we've had issues there too, but it's just going on too long. And I'm sure David, like you said, you'd love to be living there, right? Look at that sunset you're talking about, or sunrise. So I would ask the council to use the word when. If you put that in your vocabulary, the word when, some of the things here like.
Yeah, I did ask when, and I
Okay,
didn't
put a
get.
when word in there.
I did ask when, and I didn't get an answer. So
You did, that's my point.
concern.
I don't hear the when word. And I don't need to hear about a fence because like I said, that's like
You know what, to
watching
tell
a
you,
car
Rod,
that doesn't run.
If I was sitting in a house with a car next door, depending on how dirty it is, washing it might help. I completely disagree with you.
Well,
We all
you
want
can
to know
disagree about
when.
the appearance, but you can't disagree about the car not running and the building is not done.
We all want to know when. We are going to take that up with Mr. Madore, and we want a time frame. It's going to be done in a year. Let's get that in writing. Let's get that this PUD should not be going on should not be going expired for a year.
But
That's
as
not
Kelsey and I
acceptable.
said, the word when needs to be brought into the conversation. Okay, I mean, my opinion for it's worth, we all have opinions, right? Like the famous
It's
quote.
hard- I think it's hard to get a when in this time, and, I mean, with that elevator, do you know how long we've been waiting on that? I don't know when it's gonna be done, I don't work for the elevator company. We
Well, I
can't
don't think
give
the
you
pyramids
a
took
when.
this long to build.
Huh?
I don't think the pyramids took this long to
Oh,
build.
God.
I think we're all under the impression that we're okay with the elevator not being here and the inside not being done. We want the outside of the building to look complete, and we want the parking lot that reverts back to the DDA because it was our land to begin with. And at the end of the day, that's what we're getting back from it, and still we're waiting.
Yeah.
Most of the parking lot where it's going was our land.
It's all on our
The
property.
building's on our land.
But to repeat, I know redundant here, and I think it would help David, by the way, because I know he's put a lot of stuff into, as you said, and I appreciate it more than you might realize, is I think the when word would help him a lot, just like any of us. If we have a target, we're more likely to achieve it, as opposed to some nebulous concept. You know, so I would ask you again, put some timelines on here, okay? As you said, Kelsey.
So yeah, I think we can work offline to do that. We'll have Joe and Mr. Davis as well, and we'll kind of get back together and see if we can put something together. I mean, yeah, when Councilperson Kent asked about the status of the PUD, and we said, oh yeah, there was a recommended amendment, and there's this amendment. Well, the fact is, we had something prepared and it just wasn't signed. So that's a totally different story to me than trying to figure out what the right agreement is. It's like, if we're not gonna have cooperation, which we don't have.
We did not get it executed.
Right, yeah.
So we did have a conversation about the parking lot. Remember, Dave, I was on, we were on by conference call. And I think to your point, the conversation did focus on when, on that issue in particular. And I think you had some answers at the time. Do you want to walk through the parking lot issue? Or do you
As
think
far
you?
as the scheduling of it,
Yes, the when,
What was that word, Bob?
when. I
Well-
got-
Just checking.
the when, it all depends on if the contractor is available to come out, first of all. Now, before he'll come out, the garage has to be gone.
And the garage is coming down in 2 weeks.
Right, the garage is coming down. So in 2 weeks, let's say, maybe it's 10 days, maybe it's 3, whatever it is. I don't even want to give a time anymore because it just varies so much. So the garage is down and they're available. They can come in and do a rough grade. Then the surveyor has to come in and stake it for grading for the stone. And then the curb and gutter has to go in before the asphalt gets installed. So all that takes time. And also in there's a dumpster pad. All that block that sits on the corner there, it's been sitting there for 2 years, that's for the dumpster pad. We bought all the block at one time and it's still sitting there. It matches the building.
Do you have a demolition scheduled date?
For the garage?
Is that still being scheduled?
2 weeks. That's the only date I can give you. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be the 20th of November or
No, I just mean, is the demo crew, is that like a contractor?
demo crew is me.
It's you,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Valley Building.
All right, so there's no like other,
No.
we're not waiting on a contractor?
No, I want to get the materials out of there, but I want to do it efficiently. I don't want to take them out, store them somewhere else. I want to take them out, use them, build that south tower.
Your crew's gonna do all of that?
Correct.
Okay.
And the demo permit is in place.
Correct, yeah.
The house, and if you drive by the house, it appears that there might still be a foundation hole there. It's not, it's been filled, but to Dave's point earlier, it's about 18 inches below grade because that's close to the final
That's
grade.
what's
So it didn't make sense to fill it in just to move it back
Right.
out there. But if you walk up to it, it's not a danger. That's why the snow fence is down. I walked it Monday.
It's like,
Yeah, it's about 18 inches at the most
Yeah, it's more than that.
where the house was.
I think the biggest I mean, there's a lot of unfortunate things about the situation, but the most is that we have to hear the complaints before something is done every time. And so things get done, but we're hearing a ton of complaints before every step. And so, you know, and I agree with what Mr. Charles said too. It's like you get, people are like, oh, Oxford, what's going on with that building on East Burdick? Like, it's known to people that don't even live in Oxford that we have this building. People are curious about it, but at the same time wondering, like, why is it taking so long? So I would like for everybody to get on, you know, I know you don't want to put any date on the table because you don't want to be held to that, but I think it would be great to have something that is reasonable that we can schedule contractors for. And maybe, I guess I'd still like to work together to try to figure out if we can do that. I'd like to have something.
Well,
in writing.
it doesn't sound to me like the parking lot's the big issue now. To the council, it's the building.
It's all of it, for sure. The
If you
entire
recall
site.
last year, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
If you recall last year, the concern one was to enclose the building to give the finished look, and B, the rough, the base of the parking lot would have been based in. Those were both priorities, I would say 1 and 2, when we were having discussion last year. Obviously, in order for the parking lot to be based in, the house and the garage need to be down. And so those, I think, are still kind of priorities 1 and 2. You're getting closer, a lot closer in the last couple months with the windows, the window frames, some of the coping areas along the top, things like that. So that's still obviously what goal is, to make that building look as enclosed and complete as possible.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about a year ago, so that's why it's just disappointing.
I think we can't ignore the fact that it is not in the same condition it was a year ago, and I appreciate everything that's been done with it. I think the biggest thing is the exterior of the building. Let's get that done as quickly as possible and get that property, the parking lot done. Those are the two things that, you know, then what happens with the interior, it's the exterior that's the complaints are coming from.
I understand that, and I thought I explained it when I first started our conversation tonight. All that metal, except for the champagne color, is already made and ready to ship.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for my installer to say, okay, I'm ready to install it. No, I don't think he's gonna wait a year and say he's ready to install it. I'm hoping it's within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then as long as it's not bitter cold out, because it's hard to work with metal when it's cold, you'll be there working on it. And that's not something that we do, that's his trade.
Any other questions from council? No?
So, what's our plan? Joe and Dave are gonna meet with, Joe and Bob are gonna meet with Dave.
And
And try to
we
get
have
this
to involve,
PUD.
I think we have to involve the neighbor, because I think we have to address that issue.
Yeah. Separate from the PUD. The PUD is one issue. The temporary relief to the neighbor is another issue. And for the most part, your point, Rod, about the car, whatever, there's one neighbor predominantly that's being affected, and it's that neighbor. Very, very few other ones. There's one over on Stanton Street, which is in a property owned by the Weckels. That's a renter of theirs. I don't think we've ever heard anything from that resident. So predominantly, it's the one neighbor to the east that's being affected. There's a lot of other commercial places around that don't have the same effect.
Right.
So I think we still need to visit with that neighbor to see what we can do to pacify them to, again, a goodwill gesture of some visual blockade perhaps.
Yep.
At the same time, the PUD, something in right, to see if we can get something nailed down on that.
You know, the fence, I think, was a goodwill gesture for that one particular neighbor immediately next. I know that does not solve the problem in its entirety. I would like us to put this on the agenda every month, so with nothing, this doesn't fall through the cracks again, and there can be some accountability in terms of and updates on what's going on. So then we can have clear updates.
To your point about the purchasers, owners now, and one still purchasing, I guess in limbo, may or may not happen. Those happened earlier this summer, wasn't it? When did
Right.
those, I heard like through the grapevine secondhand, I think. that the
July
first
1st, I entertained a purchase agreement for the second and third floor. Here we are in mid-November, and we still haven't closed. And it's just a shell, is what they were buying.
Is it because of failing due diligence or just their inability to finance?
Bob, this is so bad, it's hard to even say. They haven't even started their due diligence. Yeah.
And I think
Because
one of their
every time
concerns-
I meet with the Realtor, I say, well, what's going on? They'll ask me what my status is, and I'll tell them. And I'll say, well, have you got your environmental done yet? And they say no. And I say, well, I don't think you need an environmental. It was never a gas station there, but you're more than welcome to do it. I had soil borings on all the sites before we even started construction to make sure that we were building on stable ground and nothing that was hidden down there. So I think we spent,
Well, you did geotech.
yeah, I did all that.
Sampling. Are they thinking of doing an environmental?
I don't know what
phase
they're doing.
one?
Well, they want to do a phase one, but I don't know why they need it. And I don't want to dispute the Realtor in front of their client.
I think part of the problem with the second and third floor too is a commercial building access to those floors with an elevator. So that's a linchpin, I would think, to that whole.
Yeah, and then another thing that they haven't done their appraisal yet because it's not complete. And I said, I have been in business for over 40 years and built spec houses or total houses from nothing, and they got appraisal from a drawing. The appraisers are accustomed to doing that. They'll look at the drawing, they have their square footage numbers, they say this house is gonna be worth X amount of dollars. But apparently,
They're doing appraisals without even visiting the sites anymore. I mean, so that's nonsense.
yeah, so to me, I thought it was just delay tactics, so that's why I said, I'm not gonna give you any more extensions. We gave them from, started before that, because before the terrible incident in Oxford, they were going to sign purchase agreement then, and then they wanted to wait. And I said, fine, I understand. Their kids were friends of kids in Oxford. So in July, though, they did sign, and we kept giving them 15 days, 30 days, and I'd say, what you've done, we haven't done anything yet. We got approved for our financing. One of the banks said that it should be complete before we buy it. I'm thinking, well, that's fine. You pay a complete price. At that point, you're offered to buy. Our purchase agreement is a shell, and it's very specific.
I do believe though, you recently finished the stairway, so there is access to all floors, but for them to operate commercially, they will have to have an elevator, I would, building code.
Oh, no, I still remember the C of O. I have to give you the parking lot, give the village the parking lot before I get a C of O. I totally understand that. It was my suggestion, as a matter of fact. Sometimes, it's that old saying, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, I feel like I'm being punished. I did nothing but try to help Oxford, and it sure is biting us in the butt.
Will you attend every future council meeting until the project's finished?
Yes, I will. Not everyone, no. Well, I'll attend one a month.
1 month, yeah.
We only have one.
That would be all.
That should be it,
So
hopefully.
you guys are part-timer now, too?
Any further discussion? And then we'll go into David's work and review and work with the DDA as well, see if we can get something signed. We'll come to an agreement on, so we have some clear expectations and it works out, so.
We'll involve the one property owner as well at least
Mr.
one meeting.
Moser. We'll see.
Separate issue, but yeah.
I think that neighbor, it is separate from the PUD issue.
It is.
It's just
Okay.
It's a property that I wouldn't buy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 9, under new business. A is election of officers.
Another election.
Can we get the results tonight?
Results are in.
I'll make a motion to appoint Council Cook as a.
I guess I'm
done.
Dog catcher, what was it, Laura? Was the dog catcher you said?
Exactly.
Constable?
Village president for 2023 and 2024, right? 2 years.
You can go to 2020.
Every 2 years you have to do it, don't
Oh, you
you?
do have to do every 2
Because
years?
councils are staggered, so you have a new council in 2 years.
So for
Kinda
2
like
years.
Congress.
Perfect.
It goes with the council, not with
I
your
still
term.
support it.
Okay, motion made by Helmuth, seconded by Bourgeot. Any discussion on the motion?
Thanks.
I'm honored, and I would love to continue serving as.
Just
village
say, I'd
president,
like to
so-
appoint Ashley because she's missing the meeting.
Yeah. Ash is looking out tonight. Should we do a roll call vote for that?
Yes.
Borjo,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Bella,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
and Ross is absent.
I make a motion to appoint Allison Kemp as vice chair for the Oxford Village Council for the next 2 years.
Support that too.
Okay, motion made by Helmuth, supported by Bourgeot. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, a roll call vote.
Cook,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Borjo,
Yes.
and Ross is absent.
I won't even ask you guys if you want it, but you can't ask.
Motion's carried. Thank you very
You got
much.
too much on your plate, I need to ask you.
Next up on the agenda is 9B, the CDBG project tier 2023, council discussion and decisions to be made for funding. Let me get to my spot.
See Terry's got a memo in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and if I can make a comment on that,
please.
in your packet, we had the required public hearing tonight, and I included, past projects and, that we have done, and potential projects. I did redo the, resolution for you, it's on the desk, I scrubbed it a little bit more because I didn't want to give the impression that we predetermine these projects in advance, but due to the limited funds, which is around $10,000 to $11,000 annually, the ongoing projects that we have and the projects that are actually eligible that really are a benefit, they have been the same for the past several years. I think the council's wishes are to continue to take 30% of the funding for public service programs, which amounts to $3,054, and retain the $7,125 for possibly the removal of architectural barriers, which is an ongoing project, or something else that is on this list. So we are in the process of replacing the inside doors over at the office so that they are ADA compliant. That's gonna cost about $8,000. I also included a spreadsheet that has the funding, where we're at with what money is available, and it has been applied to the removal of architectural barriers project. Let's see what that is.
While she looks at that real quick, so the ADA doors, we have the outside sliding door at our main entrance. It's the interior doors that are the problem, because they're not, and we're working with Stanley Access Technology, and they'll be here November 28th. We've already gone through the paperwork and the process to install the new interior sliding door. We really should do the same with the doors here. So that's a potential, another removal architectural barrier. We have the ramp, but that's not ADA approved door. So that would be a good project to do. What year is it we're using for the, is it 2018?
2018
for the
and part
doors
of
on ours.
2019.
Yeah,
To cover
it's
that
like
cost.
67, 80.
So, yeah, on the spreadsheet, totally right now, hypothetically, we have 29,614.03 that's been dedicated to the removal of architectural barriers, but the funding for 2022 has not been released yet, and that's almost $8,000. And this 2023 year funding would also be in that $29,000 total. That's combined, that's another, maybe $15,000. So, it's helpful when we can combine our funding and, bring it forward from year to year so that it has a bigger impact and provides more funding for bigger projects to be done. But you know, based on what we qualify for and, you know, I mean, that makes it really difficult. The eligibility of these projects and the hoops that we have to jump through in order to get them going, and believe me, we've been trying for 2 years to get contractors to come out to replace this sliding door and to give us bids on that. So that,
I put that sliding door in 15 years
the original one, yeah, so.
Could you fix it?
It's fine, we need a new one. And let me follow up on Terry's point. She went through a lot of hoops a year or two ago because of this building's age, a lot of environmental studies, a lot of things that CDBG required. So this building is already pre-qualified, if you will. So by doing that project there, and if we did this door here, a lot of that's already work. Front end work has been done. Which if you pivot to somewhere else, there's a lot of front end work. We looked a few years ago about code enforcement, $1,500. I think we were going to spend $3,000 in staff time and labor and DPW and taking pictures and to potentially replace some sidewalks or do some code enforcement. So code enforcement we did, it worked out okay, but it was really tough. Dan had to do 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there this time.
Didn't we talk about making the bathroom in the village offices?
We did.
28?
We
That's
did.
part of
The
this
doors
project.
we're tackling first. There is the counter.
It's all in here eventually.
Well, hopefully it was just the cost. It's, to replace a bathroom, you're not gonna get one for $29,000, and then there's architectural drawings, and you have to have.
Up front,
Mm,
our
yeah,
money.
Because it's a public facility, you can't just say, oh, let's knock down this wall and, you know, get going on this. There's all those other considerations, and then, right, like Joe said, we have to put that money up front. We have
And-
the drawings.
Part of the conversation for the workshop come up, one of the items was, I think this building, if I recall right, there's been discussions over the years, it's prior to me coming here 5 years ago, about the east wing there, the old township property. Demolition and removal of blighted structures is an eligible expense. Again, that's gonna cost more than $10,000-$15,000, but you may be able to use some of that, after a couple years builds up, you may have $30,000 that you could put towards the removal of that, if that's council's desire. And being on this property again, some of the front end work is already, I believe, done. Might have some additional perhaps, but
And if you want time to think about what you want to assign, what projects you want to select, we have time. You can select them tonight, or you can just choose to retain the 30% toward a public service program, and then we can list all the projects that I've highlighted, you know, in your paperwork, in your packet, as potential projects, until you actually put your finger on it and say, this is the one we want to dedicate this funding to. But this accumulated amount of $29,000, potential to be used, would have to be reprogrammed into another project, which is a whole other process if it's not, if we don't continue on with the removal of architectural barriers, which we can do. But it's just something to keep in mind when you decide to change, you know, venues like that. There's a
another
lot
public
of other
hearing,
things to
another public
consider.
hearing and stuff. that we
Terry,
do too.
tonight they could just categorize the money, right? And
Yes.
We can have further
Yes.
discussion at the workshop on the actual projects.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
The 30% is something that you guys
Have done.
have done typically, because that's the maximum allowed.
Yeah.
And then you guys, by setting that aside, all you're determining is that amount of money set aside for this. You're not choosing who it goes to at that moment. You
Or-
can,
Yes.
Because this funding won't even be released until December of 2023. It's a whole year before they'll release this funding. So,
It makes sense to continue with the removal of architectural barriers. I think that's really important for the office, and as you said, it's the most efficient use of the money, really, because we've done so much planning, all the planning work is done already. So I'm in favor of continuing at that, and then still continuing to hold aside the 30% for the public service program. And we've had two that have expressed interest and do every year, and we tend to alternate between them, but that doesn't mean we have to alternate every year, so.
yeah, so you do have Fish Food Bank that they sent the letter. They service about 160 families in our area. And of course, with the food prices and everything, they're anticipating a need this year. Love Inc. was awarded the money last year, and they do excellent work. They do a lot in the community. So it's personal preference, you know, how you wanna, who you wanna assign it to. If you wanna wait, you can. Because it will be at the end of December of 2023 before that funding gets released.
Terry, do you remember who we did the year before last?
We did Fish, but
Did we?
But Fish had so much money given to them by residents who were receiving COVID money from the government that said, why are we getting this money? We don't need it. They took it and signed their checks over to Fish, and they had other funding as well. And so they said, why don't you give this to Love Inc.? And so that's what we did. And so they did benefit from that. And they work together. The two organizations do work together.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought there was something weird where we kind of did, but didn't alternate. Okay.
I think Fish's kind of response was, we don't have any more room on our shelves, if I remember right.
They
Yeah,
were
there was a-
overflowing at the time.
There was a lot coming in at that time, a lot of need.
But then that was, a couple years ago.
So Terry, the resolution you provided us, all we have to do is where it says project name, we'd wanna just put, for a future project to be determined from the list provided.
That would be fine. And I could physically name all those. I always recommend put everything that you could think of, because then you don't have to hold another public hearing, and if they don't qualify, if the projects are not eligible for whatever reason, because they have to be in low to moderate income areas, basically that's what what HUD money is for,
Well, you have the list, right?
but I have the list.
We could
so-
motion to adopt it by reference. I don't know if you have to,
Yep.
I don't know if you have to read it in.
Nope, but I could list it in the, for,
In the minutes.
right.
Then I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2212, including the language with the 30% for the public service program, and the 70% for a future project to be chosen from the list provided by the village clerk. Is that good?
Works for me, if everybody else.
Well, it's not a list provided by the village clerk.
Yeah.
It's a list of eligible
A list of eligible projects.
in the
Right.
possession of the village clerk.
Because you actually, the council has to select.
Right.
Yeah,
I can't make that selection for you.
that's not, it wouldn't read well if that was.
I'll second for purposes of discussion, so I just want to clarify where we're going here. So, you want to leave it open to consider other projects than the removal of architectural barriers? Is that what this is, is that the intent?
Well, I think we've got the architectural barriers for the doors are covered, right?
Those
Okay.
are already expended in
Right.
that one, yeah, that's water under the bridge.
So we're just gonna put the 30% for public service, and then we'll decide if that 70% is going to the bathroom, the township building,
No, the bathroom and that is all part
Is
of
all-
the
okay.
removal of
So the
architectural
township
barriers.
building-
Correct,
sidewalk, or any of the other things on that list.
yeah.
So you want to reserve the decision based on the eligible list to a
Right.
different time?
Because we have years to decide.
Okay. At least a year.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion?
Are we waiting to choose where the 30% goes then?
If you want to make that
Not
decision.
part of this
you can.
resolution, not within the
Okay,
resolution.
so that's something you can still decide on today?
Well, you can, because you can say for food bank or
Sustenance.
sustenance, those are the two different categories, food banks or subsistence, payments. Love Inc. would be the subsistence payments and Fish would be food banks. So you could actually designate that if those are the only two contenders right now, there's not a problem with that. But-
So we'd have to modify the motion, is that correct, though?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm fine either way, I know.
Because Mo's motion was the all-encompassing
Right.
motion.
Right.
Can I offer
Absolutely.
amendment to that, to award it to Love Inc.? I really liked the idea of the programming for the finance class and the individual meeting in person for clients' needs to kind of.
Do we actually list Love Inc. or just the subsistence program?
Subsistence program.
Subsistence program,
Which of which?
I'll amend my
Where it's
motion
going.
to that.
Which they are the one.
Okay.
That would be the 30%.
right.
And I'll support the motion with Kelsey's amendment.
Okay, great. So motion made and amended. Helmuth and Bourgeois. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Borjo?
Yes.
Summer?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next up on the agenda is 9C, the DDA, Planning Commission, and ZBA vacancies and expirations. So we have a few. And I have a couple questions, Mr. Madore, so.
Yes, I just had my spreadsheet here a minute ago. I'm gonna try to catch it and follow you.
I'll let you get that.
Yeah, okay. I buried it. All right.
So you have some highlighted, so those ones are vacancies that are either just vacancies or terms that expired
Correct.
already,
Correct.
like
On the-
last year.
Yes, on the ZBA, it was really hard to reach out, Mr. Randall's and Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeal members, they remain on there until their replacement
Okay,
is appointed.
okay,
And because they haven't had one appointed to replace them, they remained. I think it's best, it's good housekeeping to
Yeah.
reappoint them for their terms.
I don't think anyone's expressed a desire to not re-up,
Right.
other than Kelly.
okay. So we should be, so ZBA, unless we hear otherwise, they're fine, and then we have 2 members whose terms expire in 2022. I mean,
On the ZBA?
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I would think for good housekeeping, you'd want to reappoint Adam Randall's for a 3-year term ending 2024,
right,
as well as if you'd like the alternate, and want to continue with an alternate, same thing with Ms. Hauser.
okay,
And then you could also take up the others maybe separately, just because they're now expiring at the end of this year.
okay. Do we do that without speaking to them, or is that what you're saying? Nobody's expressed a desire not to do it, so we just assume.
And matter of fact, they both attended, did Ms. Hauser attend the latest ZBA meeting?
I think you're good.
Okay.
I'm not sure, I know.
Yes, she did. She was
Okay,
here. Yes.
so both of them were at the most
Okay.
recent ZBA meeting.
I think they're good.
Okay, that's good. All right, can we start with a motion and we'll just kind of work our way through everything? Can I do 2 people at once? Okay, so for the zoning board so I move for the zoning board of appeals to appoint Adam Randalls and Tanya Hauser for new terms expiring 2024.
Support?
Okay, motion made by Cook, supported by Helmuth. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nay? Motion carries. So that takes care of the zoning board of appeals. So now we'll look at the planning commission. And we have Scott Flynn and then a vacancy. So I'll move to appoint Scott Flynn as a planning commission member with a term expiring in 2025.
Support?
Motion made by Cook, supported by Helmuth. Any discussion on that one? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, any nay? Motion carries. So there's still a vacancy on the planning commission, so we will seek applications for that vacancy. Okay.
Let me back up one sec. So on the ZBA, we have Ms. Subasarde and Dave Gerber expiring at the end of the year, and typically we do those in December, but we wanted to kind of bring this up. Did you mention that Mr. Gerber was potentially not wanting to re-up?
In the past, yes, but they were at the meeting and did
Okay.
not seem to be bothered
Okay.
with the, by the prospect of being
Well, they're not,
reappointed.
we don't have to do them till the end of,
Yes.
This year.
And they don't meet.
We could do that next month.
Okay.
let's.
Should we wait?
Yeah, those 2 might be, I think we should, can you make
Get in touch
contact
with those two?
them?
Okay. Okay. And then we have basically a council appointments, if I'm reading it correctly. Do we need to do anything with any of those at this point, or they're 2022? but-
Yeah, again, those don't have to be done. Again, you guys can discuss the MML, the SEMCOG, those items. I can reach out to the 2 persons for the beautification and bring something back next
Okay.
month. I didn't know if you guys were necessarily wanted to act for sure on them, but there was some vacancies that I thought, well, let's kind of address. And again, the first ZBA meeting we've had in what, a year and a half or more?
2.
Happened, 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a
Took
while.
place, and they all showed up there, and it was fine, so
Okay,
we should-
good.
might as well address those.
Yeah, take care of a couple of them, and then we can reach
DBAs.
out.
Got a couple down there, so.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we can reach out and follow back up on this next month. That sounds great. But the 3 we have for tonight, those are good to go, so.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else on that item? Okay, great. Okay, 9D, council workshop date and agenda discussion. So it looks like we narrowed it down to some dates. Just need to pick one and make sure that everything's included on the agenda, is that right?
Yep.
Mr. O'Donnell? Okay. All right, is there any preference among council for the workshop date? We have Wednesday, December 7th, Thursday, the 8th, or Wednesday, the 14th?
I'd like to be there, I have a problem on the 8th.
Okay, let's get rid of that one.
I'm good with all the dates.
I'm good with all the dates, however, as I say that, my husband will be having brain surgery. We have no idea when. Lots of doctor's appointments between now and then. Life could shift either way, but as of right now, I'm good for all of them.
Okay, if you can't make it, I'd like to reschedule it so that we can all be there.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
I will do everything I can
Let's
to be
go for
there.
the 7th for now, it's the
Yeah.
earliest date, and I think
We have a
That way if
backup.
something happens, you perhaps could have 14th as a backup.
14th,
Perhaps,
you know,
yeah.
is
Isn't
the-
that Pearl Harbor Day?
Yes.
Okay.
All
I'll
right,
have to, sing the national anthem or
7
something.
PM?
7 PM would be
Oh,
great.
We better have somebody who can sing.
Exactly.
Volunteering. You don't wanna hear me singing.
Chelsea mentioned before 7 is her best time.
Yeah,
Okay.
if that's okay with everyone.
That's good.
That's when I can make
That
it
helps, yeah,
easiest.
That helps.
Did we say at 7?
Good, 7, yep. So
Okay.
7 on the 7th of December. And then, in looking at the proposed agenda items, is there anything that needs to be added that was missed?
I'd like to have a discussion on the PUD,
Okay,
because that went so well tonight.
yeah, that would be good.
And that's only like 3 weeks away, so hopefully we'll have some,
Yeah,
Maybe the garage will be down.
maybe.
Thank you, Kelly.
I just wonder if we need to count on both days, because there's a lot of ground to cover here.
yeah,
That's gonna be a long meeting if we don't split it into two.
that's a good point.
Why don't you reserve the 14th as a backup? See where we end
Continue.
up on the 7th, and then pump the agenda to the 14th, the remaining agenda.
Let's do that, so that way, yeah, anything that doesn't get taken care of, we can roll on to the next
Right.
meeting, that would be great.
And that's about a week. Well, that is a week before the council meeting.
Yeah,
So you got 7th, the 14th, and the
21st.
21st. You have a busy December, but you got a lot of action.
Nothing else going on.
Right.
See,
husband's gonna kill me.
Sorry.
Yeah, your Santa Claus isn't gonna be happy.
Oh, that sounds fine. Great. Anything else missing from the agenda? We can always
Keep
add,
adding.
but. So we have residential rental discussion, rear storage building, village parking lot, the memorial, Scripter Park, social media, and the PUD. Okay. All right.
Are you definitely gonna put certain things on certain days? I would just say whatever we do with the memorial, maybe if you reach out to the student group and see if they prefer to do the 7th or 14th and kinda,
Again, it's been very sparse and sporadic, my responses from them. But I
They're
can,
busy.
well, again, of the group we met with, a few of them are off to college and a few more seniors, and a couple of the parents are pretty much steering it now. With their meeting still as a group, they say, but I'm only hearing back from like one of the parents.
Also with rentals, we discussed, chief or
The new
perhaps
chief.
being there, if he would like to weigh in. So that would be a discussion as well.
Chief Sold or Chief Schultz?
The young chief, who hasn't started chiefing yet.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
The new incoming.
Yes.
Chief.
Not that Chief Scholes hasn't been,
That's one meeting I'm sure Pete won't mind missing.
he's counting down he's counting down how many
She's gonna
he has
miss
to
any
go
of
to.
them.
All right. Sounds good. Anything further on that agenda item? You have what you need, Mr. Medor?
Yep.
Perfect. Great. How about the 2023 council meeting schedule?
Are we back to the second Tuesday?
I'd like to propose the fourth Wednesday.
I like to propose that. That didn't work at all.
It didn't?
We shifted to Wednesdays, and I'm not sure we've had a full council at any meeting that was gonna be so important we had to have full councils.
Just because Ashley got
And I
really
think the
busy.
charter says the second Tuesday, so I'm not really sure we can just shift to the third Wednesday.
What does the charter say?
one they printed out? I can't recall off the top of my head.
I'm not sure it's
I
definitive.
think your bylaws say the second Tuesday, but the charter says one meeting per month.
I think the charter says
Yes, I think that's
one
correct.
meeting
We
per
were-
month at a minimum. So it gives room for more, but I don't think it designates the day,
The bylaws, that's correct. When Terry and I looked, it's the bylaws that,
which
Had a
can be,
date.
you can't mess with the charter, but you can mess with the bylaws.
I'm fine with the second Tuesday. I was trying to prevent conflict with other community meetings that are happening, but if we're all good with the
oh
second
yeah, that was
Tuesday.
the school board
Mm-hmm,
thing that cropped up.
so,
Is that,
So the school board is
Lower.
always the second Tuesday as well, correct?
Yes.
right, yes.
They had one on a weird day last summer, I think. For
Mm-hmm.
some reason, something was going on at their building, I think. They did move at least one.
But is
They-
it,
Moved some and then they have like a second meeting or third meeting, so they have, but generally every second Tuesday, they usually have a meeting.
If we're not gonna do the second Tuesday, I prefer to do the fourth Tuesday, because everybody knows Tuesday's like village meeting night.
mm-hmm.
well, that's, all right.
Well, the fourth Tuesday is reserved for planning commission, second, potential second.
No,
No, first-
the first and
Oh,
third
that's
is
right.
planning
I'm sorry,
commission.
you're right.
No.
I'm sorry.
I know, right?
The fourth Tuesday is good, is open for you guys.
Yeah. Tuesdays work better for me than Wednesdays, so I'm good either way. It just depends if we wanna have it on the same night as the school board or if we wanna change it. So,
I would prefer to change it if possible, because then there isn't that same overlap with another major stakeholder in the community.
How often do schools do a second meeting?
Oh, I mean, in the past year, they've had quite a few, but, you know, they were doing a superintendent replacement, and there was a lot of
Has
things
that
going
slowed
on.
down?
I would say in the past couple of months, it seems like there's always been a second meeting. It feels like it's slowing, but then
Is that the
all of a
police
sudden there's
radio?
a special meeting. But they still have the second Tuesday one usually, so.
definitely sounds like a,
Good soundproofing
Scanner.
in this building.
I think your office is about to blow.
Really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's escaping.
I have issues with the fourth Tuesday, but
Oh, boy.
if that's what you guys have to have, I can
we
work
don't
around
have
it.
to have that.
Well, it sounds like the school board does use that night for their second meeting, right?
Oh, no, that's just a random, it's not the
It's
fourth
not-
Tuesday,
okay,
they
alright.
just,
It's
it's
not a
been a
schedule.
Monday and a Wednesday,
Alright.
and it's just all over the board.
I mean, your
Um,
community's used to the second Tuesday.
Hold on, Ashley's
And
calling
your
me.
bylaws say the second Tuesday, so would you need to amend your bylaws
Yes.
as well?
A lot easier than amending the charter.
Yes.
Alright, I just put you on speak. Okay, Ashley's calling me, so I'm guessing she's watching the live stream and is calling in. I'm assuming. Alright, you're on speaker.
I just prefer Tuesdays, whether it's the second or the fourth. I prefer personally the second, but I do
We'll
know
just have
I've
to
had
take
so
her
many
feedback and call her
community
back.
requests that we not meet the same night as
We can't
the
have her on
Board of
Okay,
Education.
I'm
is
saying,
possible.
alright, I lied. I'm sorry. I'm being told you're not allowed to be on speaker.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
I know, I
That's
didn't.
fine.
Will you
I
text
just
me?
wanted
Yeah.
Don't want
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was.
Well, let's talk about, I mean, when do we need, can we talk about it at our next meeting?
For the workshop.
We can visit
For the
this.
workshop.
Oh,
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
3 meetings next month.
You have to make this decision before the end of the year.
okay.
Right, you got 3 meetings between now and the end of the year. 2 workshops and a council.
Add that to the workshop.
Yeah, we can add it to the workshop. If
Amen.
not, the council meeting.
If it doesn't change, it's fine.
Thank you. All right, 9F, opening depository.
Sorry, Bob.
Excuse me, can I, before we move on?
Yeah.
So September 4th zoning board of appeals, that's obviously Labor Day, that's why it's highlighted. Do we want to just put on there canceled, or do we want
No
to?
meetings on the highlighted then?
I mean, right, so it's
Just
no
wanted to
meeting,
remove it.
so do we want to, I can put it up there.
Put it as a
Yeah.
no meeting.
Yep.
Or
we could
do you-
that.
We always have the option, if somebody wants one, we always have the option of rescheduling
Well,
special,
we're
as a
in
special
charge,
meeting.
we are in charge of scheduling ZBA hearings,
Right,
not the applicant.
right, that's what I'm
So-
saying, but if someone says, well, I'd really like to do this because it's pending, we could say, well, we could schedule a special one perhaps.
I would not, I would put a no meeting for that day.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, depending on the circumstances, it's development,
September holiday.
we'll just put no meeting.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Concur.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry,
Now we're
I just wanted to address that,
opening depository.
Okay. Opening bank depository account.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of communication from banks with some very favorable rates for CDs, and we don't do a lot of investing. The Oakland County Investment Pool has good rates, but not as good as some of the CDs that are coming up. And current interest rate from the investment pool that I just received yesterday was 1.66%. But I have some information from banks, Huntington, Independent Bank, and Flagstar, the top three that are sending me information. But I think a lot of them follow suit. Have CDs that are 2.45%, and not long-term either. I wouldn't invest a lot of money long-term. But certainly we could go 90 days or 120 days at 3.28% is darn good money. So, the problem is if I have to come to the council every time, a lot of treasurers will just put every bank on their list for approval so that they have the options when they present themselves to make those investments. But here, we've been very specific about saying this bank or that bank. So I don't want to invest our money across the state of Michigan in a bunch of different depositories because that's just not practical either. But I'd like to have some latitude to work with Joe and maybe decide on what our cash requirements are coming up for bond payments and things like that, and then just say, hey, we can take $500,000 and invest it in the CD and determine the number of days. So that's basically why I'm asking. We did close a depository with Independent Bank last year because the rates were so poor, and the money was just, it was nominal and it was sitting there and it was just dumb to leave it there. But now the rates are coming back. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that's.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, how much of our balances are insured?
When Bob stops talking.
No, I'm just curious, I wanna make sure that
Well,
majority of our money's insured, right?
It is, and $250,000 per account
per
is
account,
FDIC. You can't insure more than that on any one
Right.
account.
Right.
Oakland County investment pool is, what the investment pools do is they invest in a lot of different
But they're not,
institutions.
it's not insured.
So it is insured, but they're not the pool itself, but the different
Right,
banking
right,
institutions that they
right.
invest your money in
Right,
are.
right.
Chances are, most of the municipalities in Oakland County use this investment
Yes.
pool. It's a great tool.
Easy to
for-
use.
Right. But the other banks, yeah, you have to be careful. You can, with Independent Bank, they have a sweep account, and that works similarly. That sweep account is fully insured if you have $500,000 or $1 million because they take it daily and invest it in these other banking, or other investment opportunities, at the FDIC
All right,
rates that
we're
are
good then.
insured.
We're good. I just
So-
wanna make sure that we're mindful of the insurance.
I'll make a motion to allow the treasurer to open new depositories with agreement from the village manager and reporting deposit information and rates to the council at the earliest opportunity.
Motion made by Helmuth, seconded by Bourgeois. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Cook,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Bourgeois, yes, and Ross is absent.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Let's go to the crosswalk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't reorganize the agenda when we added the I on, because some of the items already
Jumped to I.
had numbering and lettering on them. I didn't wanna make it more confusing, so I threw that I on.
Sure.
So if you you wanna change the order.
Well, how about we just do 9G, manager annual evaluation, would you like to request a closed hearing?
I would, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll see that at 14, and then same for the clerk under H, would you like to request a closed hearing?
Yes.
Okay, that'll also be done at the end. Then we're on I. So crosswalk at Pleasant and West Burdick, discussion. We have a memo from Chief Solwall that was in our communications, and this issue actually came, here it is. This issue actually came to my attention by my neighbors, and I notice it all the time as well. But so many people, particularly when they're going from Frosty Boy to anywhere else in the village, will come down West Burdick and then jaywalk, run across. And it's dangerous because there's cars turning from Pontiac, there's cars turning from Pleasant, and then there's people crossing all the way from, west of Pleasant down to east of Pontiac. And just a couple nights ago, it was dark, and there was a group of like 5 to 10 people coming back from Frosty Boy. I could tell because they had cups, and they were waiting to see when they could run across, but there was a line of cars turning left and right from Pontiac, and so it would be nice to have a crosswalk where it's at least a designated space and cars can expect someone to possibly be crossing there, and to give everybody a path with the curb cuts. Maybe really help folks right now, they're jumping from kind of the grass right away and running across, and especially with strollers and bikes and whatever else they're pushing, they're having to go up Pontiac or Pleasant a little bit to get back onto the sidewalk, so.
It's just right at the intersection?
Yeah, Chief Solwell, do you want to speak to this a little bit and see where the best spot
I will say,
could be?
well, and public parking is on the other side too, and I frequently use Kelsey's front yard to run across
A lot,
the
yeah, a lot.
street.
Yeah.
No, I
Tough
don't.
one.
No.
Most for the crosswalk.
Because I love
I know
crosswalks.
you do, yeah.
Let's just fill it with kids and
Yes.
let God sort it out.
So, this is a great idea, and honestly, I'm surprised we haven't thought about this before now. There should be a crosswalk in that area. I thought of a couple of different locations, like maybe Pontiac Street and West Burdick, but that's kind of busy there. Might be a little confusing, so I thought maybe at West Burdick and Pleasant Street for north and south, cross from the northwest section over to in front of 48 West Burdick. That's one destination. It's about halfway between the Pollyant Trail and downtown. One of my suggestions, I'm sure there's probably a couple others. That's why I recommend that we do a study on that to see if there's any other recommendation. But I definitely think that there's one needed there, and we probably should have put one there a few years ago, especially with the traffic that we have going through there and the amount of traffic that we have crossing coming from the Pollyant Trail or downtown.
Isn't this exactly where you're coming up the hill and you can't see anything until you get to the top of the hill?
No, there's actually a section where it flattens out before, so you can actually see in that section. But again, that's why we do the study. If that's not a good spot, they can probably maybe think of a different other area that might be better to cross. But I think there should be somewhere in that midway point, whether it be, that's just one of my ideas. There could be a better section where somebody thinks that they could cross. I thought of maybe on the northeast corner, but if you cross right there, you're crossing right over into a person's driveway, so you can't really put the curb cut out there.
There's a street light right there too, correct?
At the intersection?
It hangs over the
Yeah.
intersection there.
Yeah. So there might be some lighting issue too. Whatever we decide, if it's a better place, we might have to add something like that as we do our study. But I think it's needed. I think for the amount of people that do cross, usually in that general area, I think it's a good idea to have some type of a walkway in there.
So my only concern is the many cars turning on those two streets there and just how busy it gets. So I would suggest that we just go ahead right now with a study to find out if it's even recommended at all, or if it's something where they say, you know what.
Or they may even say down below the hill there a little bit, maybe by Burdick Woods.
Right.
Somewhere in there, so I'm sure there's probably a couple of locations that they might think is a better area for them to cross. That was just one of my thoughts that I had in that specific location, but I think one is an important designation for that purpose.
Who is they? Who would do this?
So, I was just gonna wait for, I'm sorry.
All right.
I would definitely get with road engineering and have them do, we worked with road engineering when we did the repaving of West Burdick in 2019. We did or installed the crosswalk ADA ramps on Pontiac as it came up to West Burdick, but we didn't address anything crossing. Part of it was financially, right? And we did the left turn lane from Pontiac all the way through now versus having it stop and start and then all the way down that way. So that helped traffic flow. It helped some conflicts with people stopping and turning left. We did have some discussions about the pedestrian cross, but not a lot. Again, 2019, our finances were still pretty tight here at the village. And we had some county money that we needed to use before it expired, so we did what we could. But I would have Roe look at it and say, okay, you have a lot of traffic movement, especially in, the east and west turners coming out of Pontiac. Not as much as Pleasant when the school time's going on especially, but they would look at that and say, based on what they see, they could grab with a recommendation, because to Mo's point, the hill, coming up the hill, you don't want to come up the hill and say, oh shoot, there they are. Chief's right, I believe there is a sufficient amount, I believe. Again,
There's a
that's
lot.
for them to determine.
It's been for a
Yeah,
while.
between Pontiac Street and the crest of the hill, I'm sorry, Pleasant Street and the crest of the hill, they have some standards,
Yeah.
ASHTO standards, things like that, that they will plug in and see, and with a good recommendation, I guess. One thing I was talking to Don Brantley this morning about is, it's wintertime, it's snowing, people are responsible. If you install a ramp out in front from his house, they are responsible for that ramp now as well, and that's just something to be aware of, that now.
I'll shovel it. I shovel that sidewalk anyway,
Okay.
so.
Are we signing you up?
That's what we do on our street. If you get the snow blower first, you gotta go all the way down.
Yep, we go all the way down.
Yep.
Do you have a snowblower?
Yeah, I have a snow blower. I don't shovel it, my husband does, but we blow the whole way.
You send him out though, right?
Yeah.
That's right. We're gonna call him and let him know you're gonna do the ramp.
Yeah, he has no problem doing the ramp. There's so many people.
No, you're gonna do the
I'll
ramp.
call him, do it. He's gonna do the
Tell me
ramp.
you have a lot of meetings.
Yes, I know. He'll love that. But yeah, I mean, I would love to move forward with the village engineer to look into this. I just want to say that with White Pine Coffee there up on Pleasant too, a lot of
Yes.
people go from Burdick straight up to Pleasant. So I would really like to see it there. Obviously, it will be wherever is the most safe and makes sense if it happens, but yeah.
I'll reach out to Roe and say, provide us an estimate that I can bring back to council, because their traffic study and everything could be $2,200.
Right, could be,
Okay.
yeah.
It could be as much as what we're looking at here for, curb cuts and stuff. I think it would be, we want to know that before we just greenlight it to them, and you guys want to know that.
Bob, wasn't there a traffic group that we used to be members of?
We were part of an organization on, yes,
Yeah.
yes, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Traffic in something associates.
I can't remember what.
And I think it was just like $500 to be a member, and they would do things for you like this. I don't know if we wanna look at
And
it.
SimCog has some resources that someone
Yes,
like Roe can reach
Sim-
out to with the standards, and again, the ASHTO Society of
Well, we should look,
Highway Traffic Engineers and stuff.
We'll look
that
for
thing.
that, Mo, and see if that's.
That'd be better. I
I
don't
don't know
know.
if we're still members, I don't know.
I don't think we are, cause we didn't wanna pay the dues, but it's possible we can get back in.
Let's join and get a free study.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly don't want to spend hardly any money. I just don't want to tell us where it should go, because to me,
I'd rather spend the money on doing it.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Right.
to me, I mean, I trust Chief Solwald's opinion, and just seeing where everybody naturally crosses is right there. That's, I mean, there's so many people, so it'd be nice just to have it. But if we want to get a proposal, we could.
What if you went in reverse, if you guys picked the location and had a study to determine whether it should not be there?
Right, we obviously have a desired
Not a
location
study,
currently.
not a study to select, just a study
That'd be
to another.
cheaper.
I think it would be.
I
I
think it would be.
think
Yeah.
it would be.
This is where we're thinking about putting it. Is there any
Tell
red
us why it's
flags?
wrong.
But I like the idea of looking to see if there is some sort of association, if they do
Yeah,
this
we
sort
will.
of thing, if they can come in and really look at our whole village and say, you know what, we suggest this spot, this spot, this spot. Maybe there's something,
And we'll see, we'll see.
because we seem to be doing this an awful lot lately, so maybe if somebody's just like,
I do remember it's long ago that you were a member of an organization. I do not think I've ever seen your budget or a disbursement to remain a
We've
member of
had,
that.
since my coming here, that was never a.
I wanna say we took it out when Joe Young was here, maybe in '08.
It was called TIA though, because I remember them, yeah.
I think you're probably right.
And since I've been chief, I don't think we've had an affiliation with them.
All right, we'll take a look.
Do you need a motion to look into that? You're good. Okay,
No, we're good.
perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, 10, there are no items removed from consent agenda. 11, second opportunity for public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Noda, Lori?
Actually, we haven't had a meeting yet because our last one was pushed before our last council meeting, so, I think our meeting's tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
But the, vote passed, so that should be good. I don't know how that's gonna change anything, but I know it's gonna keep things the way they are. So
Right.
That's good.
Thank you. Planning Commission and Cable Commission?
The planning commission did accept the resignation of Kelly Harkles. And then we had a meeting, and what the heck did we talk about?
It was minor. I remember, 'cause
It
I
was.
didn't go, it was like a light, wasn't it a sign?
It was an amendment to the sign ordinance,
Oh, whether or not we wanted to amend the sign ordinance,
and then it was a Clean Hub Car Wash site plan approval.
correct, to allow for, management to approve it internally illuminated signs. And then we approved the site plan for the car wash south of Lincoln Street, south of the Sunoco.
Great.
And they did come before the zoning board of appeals, since Ashley's not here, I guess.
For the north side?
For a variance, because they wanted to put the vacuums on the side of the building instead of the rear, which is required by the ordinance. But the rear of the building has, it backs up to residential, so it was really better placement and more consideration for future development and people who were in the residential, adjacent to them from the rear of the property than the side of the property, so, it was approved, the variance was approved.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. DDA, Ashley is absent, but Kelly, do you want to provide an update?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Do you want me up there?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hi. So just a couple of things coming up. Just encourage everybody to shop Small Business Saturday. So that's a Saturday right after Thanksgiving. And just support our downtowns. We have Soup and Sweet Stroll coming up on December 2nd, and tickets are on sale. We've sold over 400 in the past couple of days, so there's about 800 left. So hopefully we'll sell out. And then we're gonna have winter markets this year on Sundays in December. So we'll have people set up in Washington Square. The trolley will be running. We'll have Santa down there for free photos with Santa. So I think a good thing for the community. And then all the businesses that are currently not open on Sundays have agreed to stay open. So hopefully it'll provide some extra income because fourth quarter, of course, last year was rough on our businesses. Everything else, we're moving along. We met with the state this week, MEDC, to help fill some of our empty buildings downtown. So potential people that are moving into town to help them. And I think that's it. Our meeting's coming up Monday, so probably more happening there. One thing that I did talk to Joe about that I said I would bring up that I would like to put on the agenda for you guys next month is consideration to extend social district into Centennial Park. So I know that that would be a process, but I think now that we're almost 2 years with social district, I think that it would be a really great idea. Also with 5-1 now leaving that location, if somebody does move in there that has alcohol coming up, I think it would be nice to have them included in social district, so we would like to extend it over there, but I'll definitely put that on the agenda next month.
Kelly, was that thing with Detroit, I think that was noteworthy, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Visit Detroit came into the community. We spent the whole day with them. So we went around to different locations in Oxford, got to share with them all the wonderful things about our town, rode the trolley down, spent the day in Lake Orion. So the neat thing is they took a lot of different content that day, a lot of video. They're going to send reporters back to do some stories with the businesses. But the neat thing is that ours were the first 2 communities in Oakland County that they featured, and they chose us out of all of the spaces in Oakland County. And what they're going to do is put agendas together, so itineraries for their following of over 1 million people that will see, okay, if you're going to come spend the day in Oxford or Lake Orion, here are the things to kind of check off your list. So it was really neat to hang out with their whole team and get to know them. And none of their 10 that were here that day had ever been to Oxford or Lake Orion, so just now having them as ambassadors going back down to the community. They've even picked up stuff on our social media I saw this week, and we're sharing our content. So I think it was really neat. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, I think you wanna make sure they know when we put those chargers in.
Yeah, we actually talked about that, so
Great.
for sure.
I also heard there were good appetizers, so.
Yeah.
Just wanna say, while we're on DDA, that Witches Night was last, it looked like you had a lot, was it like a lot bigger than expected?
It was, yeah. So the weather definitely helped us out. Partnering with Lake Orion helped us out. Homegrown, for example, I'll just, tell you about them. So they've been open 6 years in the community, and this was their largest night of sales ever. So Oktoberfest, everything that they've ever done, Witches Night was their largest. So we had great feedback.
My first time riding the trolley, and it was packed.
Yeah.
That was
Awesome.
very cool, very cool.
And we'll be having the trolley in the Oxford Christmas Parade, all decorated, and then we'll be going down to Lake Orion Lighted Parade and lighting it up for that night. So if any of your kids or any of your families want to ride with us, we'd love to have you.
That's my ABCF, whatever, remember? I think
Yes.
that's been D down
Next up, Pollyanna Trail.
Joe was gracious enough to attend the
Pollyanna Trail.
Pollyanna Trail today.
Yeah, and it was a record meeting. It was 45 minutes, which freed me up for the chamber ribbon cutting at 4. It was here, so that made it easy. It was a pretty light agenda. They're putting in for a grant for the Oakland County Parks grant for the design and development, pre-development grant. So I've been asked to reciprocate with the letter of support that they provided to us, and Aaron Watley, the director at Orion Township Parks and Rec, had already provided us one. Chief Schultz has provided us one. I've got like 3 or 4 letters of support already for our project, for our grant. Went pretty well today. Donnie Steele, who's been on the Pollyanna Trail for a long time, today was her last meeting as she starts her orientation at the State House, I think tomorrow and the next day. So they'll be figuring out how to replace her down there. But as well, and Curtis Wright really does a good job of running that meeting, preparing the packets. He's the model.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Curtis Wright's been known to.
Yeah, he's a legend.
He runs a good meeting.
All right, thank you. Moving on to G, manager, staff, and attorney reports. Mr. Medor?
Yep, I got some notes here. The electric vehicle charging stations, I reached out to State Contracting a few weeks ago. I said, just give me something close to the date. So I got an email back from him today after I prompted him again. And quote, we are currently figuring out service info for the both locations. And that's to get from that power panel that we're near over to. So they have to quantify what they need, if they're gonna need to upgrade meters and stuff. They're figuring that out with DTE. As of now, we plan on having the stations installed in the first week or 2 of December. So we're up and running by the end of the year. That's the goal. That's where we're at.
Do we need to, since we're redelegating those spots, aren't those spots currently delegated to the apartments?
They used to be noted that way, labeled that way, but they aren't. The two on this side. The 2 on the other side are not. On the east side of the monogramming shop, those aren't dedicated or delegated at all. It's just customer parking lot, that's all what it is along there. But yes, part of this agreement before was the signage of the reserved for that. So anyways, we'll see. We'll see how it goes with them. Hopefully by the end of the year, those are up and running. We have posted for the full-time DPW position that we budgeted this year. It was just a crazy end of summer and fall, and finally Don and I got together and put that out on the MML site. We've received 4 resumes so far. Don and I were kind of going over them this morning. He's going to set up and do some interviews preliminary on his end, and then we would get together and interview any other finals. The West Burdick repair, as it goes down the hill with the water service line was leaking a few weeks ago. The asphalt estimates came in at $7,000 to $8,000 to patch that little hole spot. So Don Brantley was said, no.
amazing.
It's gonna remain, they're gonna dig it all a bit, put some stone in and pack it, and that's how it's gonna stay through winter. It's in a center turn lane. They plow, they know it's there, they will keep it addressed as best they can. And the CDBG I had for the ADA doors scheduled the week of November 28th here. And then we met last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with the Chief, Don Brantley, myself, and the Sheriff Department about the parade route for the Chamber Parade, the Christmas Parade, working on our safety route and things like that. Protecting the envelope of the onlookers downtown and through the route. That's it.
Great, thank you. Terry?
The review of financial statements were completed today, so that will be on, our presentation for the audit will be on the December agenda.
Oh, goody.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have the same presentation as last year, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know if Bob wants to report on anything.
Yeah, Bob?
Just on the museum lease, we haven't received any comments
Okay.
back from our draft.
Okay. What, was that provided like directly after the meeting, or how long have they had it?
Oh, yeah.
They've had
It
it for
was
about
the
a
next
month?
day.
Okay, yeah.
There was initial conversation, wasn't it? Conversation or email with you?
There was an
But
initial,
just
but nothing, we haven't received
clarification.
anything back.
Did they have counsel, or just not, do you know?
I think actually, Brian is looking at it
Okay. All right, thank
at this
you.
point.
Right, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to council comments. Portia?
I have no, thank you. Oh, no, congrats to the three of you for the vote. It was a tough race. And also for the new members that we got on there. And to Loving, I think that was, I like that they're a community, you know, that they're a smaller startup versus, you know, I enjoy Fish, obviously, I support them. But I just like the idea of supporting a group that's changing and evolving, you know, from what we've seen 2 years ago, what we heard last year, and where they are today. It's really great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Helen?
Bob, I'm sure you've heard on the news, a lot of communities are trying to put together ordinances to cover reimbursements from false calls for school bombings and threats. Is that something we should be looking into?
Well, there has been a flurry of those, and they are trying to charge back. So yeah, I can show you some examples of those, and maybe you guys can think about it. Just so you know, also, and Chief, you may be aware, your district court is we're going to be potentially adopting a program of unpaid court fees by defendants being turned into tax liens on their taxes.
Property
So-
taxes?
Yes. So that's something that's it's been kicked around for years as an enforcement mechanism, but I think it's getting closer. I'll be talking to you about that more. One way to get them to pay, right, Chief?
Yeah,
I just wanted to say that happy to continue to serve with you all. Thank you for trusting me to kind of lead these meetings still. The local government law books that are at your seats, those are from me.
Thank you.
It's written by Jerry Fisher, who's a good friend of mine, a fellow attorney. Everybody seems to know Jerry Fisher. He's like a legend in the municipal law area. So
He's one of the greatest.
yeah, so I was just in a meeting with him the other day, and he mentioned he had a book, and so I bought it, and I liked it, and it kind of just laid out a lot of, I don't know, it's interesting to me, so hopefully it's interesting to you all. So I just want to share that, and I'll drop Ashley's off at her house, so, but thank you.
And then happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's true, I can't believe that's
Oh, yeah.
next week,
my
so,
goodness.
Go Lions.
yep.
Go where, Joe?
To Florida,
Go
where they belong.
Hey, they did okay.
They have won 2
week,
games.
so. All right.
Two more.
In a row.
Yeah.
Let's not leave the in a row.
It's called a win streak.
We're on a roll.
So with that, we're on item 14, so I'll move to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 268A for the personnel evaluations of our manager and clerk.
Support.
Any discussion on the motion?
Can we take a short recess before going into close?
Oh, absolutely.
We can do that.
Thank you.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Porcho,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yep.
Ham, Kemp,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes,
and Ross is absent.
motion carries.
Kelly, I
Thank
need
you. ready. Okay. All right, so last item on our agenda is adjourn. I move to adjourn at, I lost my time here, sorry.
9:55.
Thank you, 9:55.
Support?
Motion moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.